While real estate developers and city planners cooperate in giving Beijing a facelift, a retired railroad employee has been on a mission of his own to preserve, on paper, the capital city's original look. For 16 years, Xu Liao has stuck to his self-appointed task of mapping the labyrinth of alleyways running between ancient courtyard houses in the old imperial district of the city. These alleyways, called Hutong, have been falling victim to the wrecking ball, particularly from the early 1990s, when the city government handed developers the power to move residents out by compensating them. In the aftermath since the passing of the policy, only a few hundred of the original 3,000 Hutong crisscrossing the old city remain. Xu Liao claims that Beijing's Hutong are really valuable. He felt inspired to draw up a map of his own, documenting what the city looked like 700 years later. He began his project in 1987 when he stumbled across a large map of Beijing dating back to the Qing dynasty in a public library. After experimenting with a tape measure, he finally settled for measuring the Hutong with his feet, taking down the number of his steps and converting it into meters back at home. He now spends most days translating his numbers into sketches, working on one table-sized piece of the map at a time. His drawings are not exact, but are works of art that include notes in the margins explaining each alleyway's name and other anecdotes, information he picked up in conversation with Hutong residents. Xu Liao's dream is to put these maps on display. That way, when he is finished, he can show them to the people of Beijing. He says that his work is useless if he just stores it away, but if he does an exhibit, then ordinary people can see the profound meaning of Hutong culture. The Hutong concept dates back to the Yuan dynasty 800 years ago, when courtyard houses were built to house the ruling Mongolian elite. Since Mao's revolution in 1949, the historical buildings have degenerated into an urban slum, overcrowded and unsanitary. But many residents living in Hutong refuse to believe that the alternative, a modern apartment complex, could be superior. Since winning the bid to host the 2008 Olympics, Beijing has stepped up the pace of refashioning itself in the image of a modern metropolis. The city has budgeted an estimated $37 billion to build infrastructure and make the city presentable for foreign guests. But as the walls of Hutong, even in ostensibly protected historical zones, came tumbling down, preservationists called for a stop to development in the old city area. And while preservationists argue it is not enough and petition the city for stronger measures, Xu Liao continues to quietly sketch away at his map. Over the last few years, he has turned out 7 large sheets. He estimates his representation of Beijing will be larger than 26 square meters when finished.